Okay. Hi, all, and welcome to the MyAdvice webinar. Thank you so much for your patience. We're just getting some technical stuff set up on the back end. Today, we're going to be talking about how to ensure your medical practice succeeds in 2023. Today, we're going to talk about how you can get the best return on your marketing to help you grow your practice this year. My name's Rachel, and I'm the marketing director for MyAdvice. Some quick housekeeping tips before we jump in. We'll wait and answer all questions at the end. Please feel free to submit questions in the QA or chat. I'll keep a close eye there, and we'll get to as many as we can. Today, we'll be hearing from Robbie Antozzi and Mike Antozzi, our senior practice growth consultants with MyAdvice. Together, they have 20 years of experience working with practices just like yours, helping them understand the marketing activities they need to help them grow. And now, I'm going to turn it over to Robbie and Mike.
Hey, Rachel. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you guys are joining from. As Rachel said, my name is Robbie Antozzi. I am a senior practice growth consultant here with MyAdvice. And what we really do is we help a lot of practices out with their online growth strategy. And part of today's presentation is really going to be going through ways of helping you really become more profitable for your online presence. And I'm just going to get the elephant out of the room here as well. As you can see, my name is Robbie Antozzi. I am actually joined by Michael Antozzi as well. He is my brother, and we're going to be kind of co-presenting on, as you can see here, the subheading to this homepage is the 2-year journey to your website summit. And really what we're going to be covering here is an understanding for the sequence that goes into developing a website, timing, the right things that you should be looking out for, and also covering different things and strategies that allow you to become more profitable within your practice. So we're both really excited to be here with you today, and let's just hop right into it. So before we kind of go into the weeds here, I want everyone to understand the why. Why does a medical practice have a website in the first place? Oftentimes when I'm asking that question, a lot of the answers that I will get are usually, hey, you know, I have a website because it has the basics in terms of information. People know how to contact me. People can submit contact forms. People can call me through the website. It has some information. All of that stuff is really true, right? Your website is basically a repository for some good information about why someone should really come and see you. But at the end of the day, really the why in terms of why you have a website presence to begin with is to really make you become more profitable. That is the whole goal, is to make you become more profitable within your practice. And when you're more profitable as a human being, you can be more present in the moment. Maybe you can spend more time with your children. Maybe you can go on more vacations. And all of these things are really intertwined when you have a great cohesive online presence really working for you. And the reason why I keep saying online presence is because it really is a presence. So in other words, a website is just a part of your online presence. There are other components or spokes to your presence that really also help influence patient conversion, Google visibility when someone is searching for the things that you do. So that's really what we're going to be focusing in on here. So the website that you have or maybe do not have at this point is really the face of your business. And I like this slide a lot because this kind of speaks to an understanding for how we perceive websites as humans. So I'll just read this off. 48% of people cited a website's design as the #1 factor in determining the credibility of a business. So you think about that for a second. If 200 people came to your website and 100 of those people were just like, kind of looks okay, but what other options are out there? You've already lost those individuals. So because we are so conditioned as humans to look at these components of your practice before we pick up the phone and call you, we really need to make sure that your website is really updated. And I'm going to be hopping into this in a little bit of detail, but a website does have a shelf life. And I think sometimes when individuals are going into the process of developing a website, they kind of have a mindset like, hey, I'm developing this website. Once it's launched, that's kind of it. And that is the complete wrong mindset to have. That is not a growth mindset. When you have a business, you are really focusing on growing the business. And as a part of that, the website needs to be a component to that. And you can't have a website that is overly too old because it becomes stale. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a brief experiment here. I call this the 2.9-second experiment. So I'm going to be showing everyone here 6 websites, 6 screenshots of websites on the next slide. And what I would like everyone to do is, basically take a quick look at these websites. And again, this is really just like the design homepage of the website. And I want you to chat into the GoToMeeting here which websites really resonate with you. In other words, just based upon visuals, all things remaining equal, which website would you go to first, just based upon the look in the image alone? So I'm going to be showing this here. If everyone is ready, I'm going to be showing this to you for 2.9 seconds on the dot, and I want everyone to chat to me which numbers really resonate with them the most. And again, there's going to be 6 numbers here. So here we go. So based upon what I just showed, which numbers, which websites do you feel as if resonated with you the most? And I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to see if there's any answers that someone is providing me. Okay, I'm actually getting a text message here from someone. Okay, 4, 6. Okay. So I'm just going to go back here to this page. I got a couple of answers here, and what most of the individuals chatted back were 5 and 6. So why did 5 and 6 emotionally connect with a viewing audience more than some of these other websites? So let's go through these one by one. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. But number 1 here, I'm not sure if you can see really up close here, but this person here, this image on this website, this is a person that is getting injected with a needle. I never recommend that on any, especially like an aesthetic provider's website. Individuals do not want to see the process of getting injected. Sometimes individuals are scared of needles, so we don't really want to focus on that. Individuals who are interested in scheduling up an appointment, they want to see the end result. They want to feel like they've already been there. And if you're showing the process to get there, that's never a good sign. Number 2 here as an example, there's just a lot of dead space here on the left and the right. This website actually has one of those website ticker counters. I'm not sure if you guys remember those from the 90s, but if you remember coming to a website that said, hey, you're the 100th visitor, thank you for coming. That website seems to have one of those. Number 3 here, when I look at number 3, I just see a lot of blandness. The color scheme doesn't really speak to me as well. Really similar to numbers 1 and 2, a lot of dead space on the left and the right, just a very busy website. So we want to keep things really simple. And again, this one is actually showing someone getting injected as well. Number 4, kind of the same thing. So 5 and 6 here, right? 5 and 6 is really what we're focusing on. They're simple, they're elegant, the images are larger, they look really, really sharp. So now that we kind of understand, the design aspects of what really connects with humans, I want to show everyone this slide that my fantastic marketing team has actually put together. We did this actually last year, and we actually pulled 131 practices, and we wanted to ask them, and these are established practices, right? So practices who have been around locally for quite some time. When was the last time that you actually updated your website? So as you can see here, the majority, 32% out of this grouping of 131 practices, said that their website was updated more than 24 months ago. So think about that for a second. So if I am a young, doctor who is just kind of getting started in a new area, wanting to actively grow my practice, I understand that the majority of the individuals who might have an online presence in my localized area might have a website that is older than 2 years. So for me, I see that as opportunity for me to position myself in a better light with a better website, a better online presence. Google reviews are also a part of that, to really drive more visibility for everything that we do to convert a higher volume of patients. So now that we understand the why, we really want to go into the how. How do I go about preparing my online presence for success, not only today, but for years to come? And before we do that, we need to really understand what is the correlation between your website and an iPhone. So remember the good old days, so to speak, like literally 5 years ago when iPhones only had one camera on them? Now they have three, right? So technology, functionalities in terms of iPhones, in terms of cell phones in general, things change really rapidly. And there is a really significant reason as to why you get a new cell phone once every 2 years. And it's because the functionalities really change within how websites, or I'm sorry, really change within how iPhones are actually being used by the generalized public. So a website is really no different than that. If I showed you a website from 2 years ago compared to a website today, they would look different, but also they would function differently as well. And we're going to be going into some of that in just a little bit here. So outside of functionalities as well, websites also make you feel different. And case in point here, I'm just going to use a kitchen as an example. The picture on the left is a picture of a kitchen from the 1970s, and you compare that to a picture from a kitchen in today's modern era. How do you feel when you look at the picture on the left compared to the picture on the right? The picture on the left might give you a little bit of nostalgia, and I get that, that's completely fine. But the one on the right is very elegant. It feels clean, it feels modernized. So in the same way that you feel differently when you look at that picture on the right compared to the left, that is how individuals feel when they land on a website that is newer compared to a website that is older. I hope that I'm connecting some dots here for you guys, and this slide here kind of wraps that up. So now that we kind of understand these more foundational concepts, we really want to put a plan in place regarding your website's life cycle. And what I mean by that is really whether your practice is just getting started, whether you've been established for, a couple of years, even established longer than that, and you're trying to establish more sustainability for your business model and really utilize your online presence as a new patient acquisition resource, we're going to be going through these 5 steps and really understanding the steps that you should be taking along the way when you're considering either launching your first website or redesigning a website that you might already have. So we're actually based in Lehigh, Utah, and everything that we do has a little bit more of a mountainous theme to them. So we're going to be, again, going through these 5 steps, and we're going to be beginning here with phase 1. Phase 1 is what we call gearing up. So when is phase 1? Phase 1 is usually 90 days before the relaunch or a launch of a new website. And the goal here is to really assess the current state of your site if you have one, and really set benchmarks as well for improvement. So the actions that you should take, again, keeping in mind that this is 90 days before the launch or a relaunch of a website, is that we need to benchmark how your website is really performing right now if you have one. So in other words, set what are called KPIs, key performance indicators. Understand how much traffic that your website is generating. Understand how many times someone clicked on direction requests, how many phone calls that you're getting from month to month, how much engagement that you're actually getting on the website's homepage. All of these things are really critical to understanding the success of your website right now and really where you want to be moving ahead. Because as things change after you go through the relaunch of a website, you want to see your conversions, your phone calls, contact form submissions, all of those things should be increasing by virtue of making that additional investment. Another action that you should take here during phase 1 is reviewing what is called your site's SEO performance. So this is really critical, and I want to go into some detail on this. Basically, when you own a practice, you have what are called online directory listings. Okay, so we're just going to play pretend here for a little bit. If my practice name was ABC Med Spa, right, and I am located at 3025 Maple Drive in Northeast in Suite 3 in Atlanta, and I also have a phone number there, the goal for my localized performance within search engines is to have complete consistency across the web in terms of what is called your NAP information. Again, NAP stands for name, address, and phone number. So, the thing about these listings is that they are created sometimes automatically. So in other words, when you're applying for a DBA or an LLC if you're beginning a business or applying for a credit card, there are different bureaus, so to speak, that are picking up on all of this information and basically feeding it into these online directories. And again, using this ABC MedSpa as a for instance, if this is again my location, what happens with these online directories is that, especially if you are taking over an existing office space that maybe another practice was the occupant of before you started to take it over, you're going to find that a lot of these listings are going to contain misinformation, incomplete data. So as an example, you see here the Google listing has a different practice name as opposed to ABC MedSpa. There is no listing on Yahoo. Bing listing really similar to the Google listing. So the goal here across all of these directory listings is to have complete consistency and uniformity and to have complete information all across the web. And when you are doing that, you are sending trust and confidence signals over to Google about who you are, what you do, and really where you're located. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because this is a complement to an active growth strategy for your website. When you have consistency across the web in terms of all of these different directory listings, you're basically showing Google why Google should promote your online presence on a localized level when someone is searching for something like medical spa near me, Botox injector near me, whatever the case may be. And I'll be the first one to tell you that when you take a look at these directory listings, you might be thinking to yourself, yellowpagecity.com or americantowns.com. I've never heard of these before. Why are these important? You're never going to have a patient go into one of these secondary directory listings here to find what you do. That is not why these exist. These exist to show Google that you have a localized presence, and when you are connecting those dots all across the web, really what you're doing is establishing localized trust. So that again, if I am a dermatologist, if I'm a gastroenterologist, if I am any type of medical specialty and someone is going to Google because they're trying to find someone like yourself to help them out, and I go to Google and I type in dermatologist near me, this is one of the ranking factors that gets that person in front of your online presence quicker and better with more visibility into everything that you do. So I'd be happy to go into more detail about this with you, but this is a critical component that really makes a big difference in terms of search engine visibility for your online presence within Google search. Just going back here.
Robbie, can I add that as well?
Sure, go ahead.
One of the things also to everybody that I think it's really important to understand is that it's very important that you're clear on what Google rankings are, or what frankly SEO actually is, because there's a lot of companies that are out there that are going to sell that you should be doing SEO as the very first thing. And what Rob is saying is absolutely correct, is that the idea about SEO works better when you have it fortified with the right foundation. And that's really what a lot of what Robbie is talking about which is what these local listings are about. Now, what this is not is, say if you're a med spa and if a patient does a search for, hey Google, what's the difference between Botox versus Dysport? I don't really understand what that is. That is what we talk about long tail keyword format optimization, and queries like that are truly why you then invest into SEO. It's content-based strategies. But if we're just simply looking for dentist near me or med spa near me, that is what your localized SEO is all about, and that's what consistency with your citations really helps to optimize you. Rob and I have been consulting in this space for a combined over 20 years, and you'd be amazed at how many times we talk to practices and they just actually don't know what it is that their money is going into. So we're also here to really make sure that we're very clear to provide sound guidance and also help practices to understand that a solid web strategy before big investments like SEO are made, you really have to make sure that you're walking before you're running.
That's a great point, Mike. And on one of my previous slides, I was covering, or at least I had a picture of it. This is what we call our pyramid of success, everyone. And I think now's probably a good time just to kind of touch on this in a little bit of detail, because Michael made some good comments there. The skinny on this pyramid of success is really understanding that this is a sequence, this is a playbook that any medical practice should follow in terms of understanding what the proper sequence is that goes into a digital investment. So like any other pyramid, you have a foundation within your online presence, right? And then things build upon that foundation. So your website, as an example, is the foundation for your online presence. You can't do anything from a marketing standpoint unless you have a website, for the most part. Now, sometimes what we do see, especially with some smaller, more boutique-y solo injectors, sometimes we see them have a social media presence even before they have a website. And we need to keep in mind that oftentimes, especially with something like social media, which is really up here at step 4, social media is a lot more of a retainment tool than what it is an acquisition tool. And I think a lot of practices sometimes get the understanding of what social media is in place for incorrect. When you have a website and you're really driving localized visibility for your website, that is a new patient acquisition resource, because you are getting in front of the person again who is searching for more generalized keyword terms like dentist near me, medical spa near me. So that's why within this pyramid here, after you have a really cohesive, nice website put into place with good conversion tools, the question is, how do I get more localized visibility into that website? And localized is really the key word, because it doesn't matter if you're driving visibility into your website from a person who is 2 hours away from you. The likelihood is that that person might not convert to be an actual patient. But if we're targeting localized traffic for someone who is actively going to Google with intent to find someone like you, of how you can actually help them with whatever situation that they're going through, that is the person that we really want to try to focus on. And after you're really doing that, we talk about an active Google review strategy. Michael's actually going to be covering that here in a couple of minutes to go through actually our software. We have a text message based software that works out really well, really easy for practices to generate new Google reviews. We understand that when someone is getting referred over to your practice, the landing spot for that person, they don't see your website first, actually. They actually see your Google business profile. And as a part of seeing your Google business profile, they actually see your reviews. So if your reviews don't check out, if you don't have an active Google review strategy, then that person's never going to click into the website and see all the great things that you do. And then after that is really, again, social media. So after you talk about establishing a website, fixing up your local listings, have a really great process in place as far as reviews, that's when we want to start to introduce a social media plan that is really geared towards retention of your existing patients, because that is really why social media exists. The point in social media is to really remain consistent. If you can be consistent, that is really how you help foster and fortify a fantastic online presence. Most practices that we work with, they struggle with the consistency piece. And if you feel like you're struggling with that, then we can certainly talk about that in a little bit more detail. After you go through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 here, make no bones about it, you have a complete online presence. But if you would want to take that a step further and get a little bit more aggressive when it comes down to SEO, keyword association, driving more long tail keywords, as what Michael was talking about there a couple of minutes ago, then you can make those additional investments into paid search or more aggressive SEO. So that is really how a complete online strategy is really built, is by understanding that before you run, you need to crawl, and to make sure that you have these really basic components fixed first before you do anything more aggressive. Michael, is there anything else that you wanted to add on top of this? Okay. So going back here, again, keeping in mind that this is still the actions that you should take 90 days before the relaunch of a website. We want to compare your site to competitors as well. So in other words, I'm not saying to follow the leader here. What I am saying is, hey, if your competitors have a fantastic, really robust photo gallery, then you should have a really robust photo gallery as well, because automatically that is working against you if you don't have something like that. And then the other thing that you really want to do here is research algorithm updates. Not sure if everyone knows this here, but Google makes around 4,500 algorithm updates every single year, which is a really, really high volume. And as you can see here, I have a little icon here that says ADA compliant websites. I want to show everyone what this really means. An ADA compliant website will usually have a widget like this on the side of the website. So in the same way that, like, you know, if you have your business and you need to build up a ramp for someone with a wheelchair to have access to getting into your business, that is what ADA compliancy is for your website. And this is really, really critical for everyone to have on their website, because there are ambulance chasing attorneys that are out there. We've actually seen it firsthand, that will sue small businesses because their website does not have ADA compliancy. So this is a really critical thing, and make sure that you take note of this. Basically, ADA compliancy, if I wanted to increase the text of this to make it bigger, if I have seeing issues, I can do that. If I wanted to, you know, have my computer read off the verbiage here on this website, if I have seeing issues, then I can do that as well. So that's basically what ADA compliancy is. Again, if you have any other additional questions on what this is, the impact of this, I'd be happy to guide you through those things. The pitfalls that you need to avoid here, again, 90 days before the launch or a relaunch of a website, is setting unrealistic goals. Keep things simple. You know, track the things that really matter within your online presence. So in other words, once you launch a website, it's not like your website is going to jump from 0 visitors up to 100 overnight. Google takes time to really index your pages, understand your content, understand everything that you're really trying to promote, and we don't want to set unrealistic goals. And then you also want to monitor you don't want to monitor the wrong things. So in other words, keep it really simple. You want to monitor traffic, you want to monitor conversions. You want to see increases within both of those things over the course of time. So phase 2 here is what we call acclimation. So when is phase 2? Phase 2 is 0 to 2 months after the relaunch of a website. So at this point, your website is launched, right? You made your biggest change, and it is kind of acclimating into its new environment. So again, keeping in mind, this is 0 to 2 months after the launch of a website. Actions that you should take here during phase 2 is really make your biggest change first, which is really what you just did. You just launched a new website. It's getting used to its new environment. I kind of call this phase getting in the mindset that, you know, your website is not a set it and forget it Ronco rotisserie chicken cooker. If everyone remembers Mr. Ronco here from the 90s, your website is not one of these things. So in other words, understanding—
I think chicken on those, by the way. I remember that.
You do? Yeah. I thought that you would like this slide. So understanding that, you know, after your website is launched, we want to start getting in the mindset of what are additional proactive things that I could be doing to my website over the course of time. You don't want to make those changes right now. Again, this is literally 2 months after you launched a new website, but you want to start getting in the mindset of, hey, what additional content can I put into my website over the course of time? So whether that's video content, you talking about a procedure, adding before and after gallery pictures into the website, all of those things are really critical to the continued growth of a website. Another action that you should take here during phase 2 is that you want to test your website. You want to make sure that it looks good on different browsers. You want to make sure that the links are working. You want to make sure that everything is really functional. And you also really want to monitor your website carefully. If you don't have your website linked up to Google Analytics, then it needs to be. Because without understanding the data behind a website and really what is converting well, you as a business owner don't have any intel into what you should be investing into and what you should be really improving within your practice. And one last action here is that you don't want to panic. So understanding that once you launch a website, there's probably going to be some ups and downs in terms of like the website, the traffic coming into it. You want to make sure that you're not panicking, because again, this website that you literally just put all of this effort into, it's acclimating to its new environment. So couple things to keep in mind there. Couple pitfalls that you should be avoiding as well is doing too much too soon. So this screenshot here is really critical, and I want everyone to really pay attention here. So we've worked with practices before where they say to us, hey, look, Robbie, I want to launch a new website. I already have this existing website, but I have all this new content. I have all these great things that I want to say about this new procedure, so on and so forth. And when you're going through the process of updating your website, what you don't want to do is to start making content changes as you go through development. You want to save content changes for incremental changes over the course of time after the website launches. And the reason why you should really take that approach is because if you change up too much too soon in terms of your content on the website, in terms of, basically, again, making all of these additions so that once you launch that new website, here's all of this new content, Google basically goes through a shock factor. Google's trying to say, hey, this website doesn't really look familiar. There's all this new content here. You really want to focus on making those small content adjustments and additions after the website launches. Because what will happen is if you launch that website, this is case in point here, you can see that as the website was doing really well here in terms of traffic, once that new website was launched with all of that new content, the website basically went down tremendously in terms of traffic, in terms of visitors. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. You want to make content additions and changes only after a new website launches, incrementally over the course of time, as if you're basically spoon feeding a baby.
To add to that as well too, is that a lot of the times that we always hear from our practices is they say, well, patients don't really want to read all that content. They don't want to take the time to go through all that information. And in all honesty, I would actually agree with that point. The average website visit, when you really boil it down, and this is actually what we consider to be a quality website visit, is usually about 2 to 3 minutes. So kind of the whole reason why Robbie took you through that whole 2.9 second test is because we're not spending a lot of time on that website. We want to go to a website that looks good, that says that you invest well, that feels like this is a place that ultimately we can trust, and kind of make us feel like we're being wrapped up in this warm blanket of comfort. But then, you ultimately want people to give your practice a call. But what's equally as important, though, is that you have great content on your website to drive that visibility. So just because patients are not going to spend an hour on your website reading through all, say, 60 pages of core pages, as well as all of your blog articles, that's certainly not a right expectation. But that information, all that content is crucial and necessary to ensure that you continue to maintain and build upon more of your practice's visibility in search. So content is a good thing. It just needs to be organized in the right way that makes it much more digestible from a patient's mindset.
That's a great point. So just kind of feeding into that as well, oftentimes Michael and I will ask practices, what do you think Google's favorite website is? And we get a lot of different answers when we ask that question. And I'll give everyone some hints here. It's not, Google's favorite website is not Google itself. It's not a social media website. It is a website that is completely content driven, that is always being added to. And that website is Wikipedia. So in other words, no matter what you're searching for, you could be searching for anything. I want to know the Philadelphia Eagles roster from 1985. I want to find out the history of Savannah, Georgia, whatever the case may be. If I'm trying to find some information across the web and I type those search terms into Google, I can promise you that Wikipedia has a page on it. And the reason why Google likes Wikipedia so much is because Wikipedia is completely content driven, and new content is always being fed into Wikipedia. So we try to make the suggestion, to our clients that you need to start thinking about your website as the Wikipedia resource for anything that you do. So as Michael was saying, content and really having a ton of content that explains everything that you do, Google loves that. The reason why Google loves that is because you're trying to educate the public on things that you do that you can make their lives better with. And that's why content on a website is absolutely crucial in terms of explaining everything that you do. So last pitfall to avoid here during phase 2 is that you really want to make sure that you're testing your website on different browsers. Quick point here, if anyone here within the webinar has a Wix website, then please contact us to talk, because the Wix website infrastructure, Wix does not provide what are called responsive websites. And a responsive website is basically a website that looks and functions well on any device that is out there on the market. And it's really critical to have continuity in terms of how your website looks, not only on a computer, but also obviously a mobile phone, a tablet, everything in between. So make sure that you're really taking that into consideration, because functionalities and aspects of that really tie into you being more successful as well, and just providing your users a better user experience, the people landing on your website. So we're building momentum here. This is really phase 3. Phase 3 is 2 to 12 months after the relaunch of a website. So those mindset shifts that I talked about during phase 2, thinking about, hey, the website is not a set it and forget it type of thing. This is really where we want to start implementing some of those strategies, adding content into the website, adding before and after cases, adding videos into the website, so on and so forth. And the actions that you need to take here is really audit your content, right? We're speaking a lot about content and the importance of this. You're probably wondering why there is a quarter pounder here in terms of the graphic. So where's the beef, right? The old Wendy's commercial. The beef within a website is always the content, and the content on things that you do. I'm going to pull up a good example here of one of our clients. This is basically a medical spa that we work with, and I want to showcase their website, because while we're on the subject of good content and how your content should really be fortified and implemented within your website strategy, this is really how I want everyone to think about their content. So, say I'm a person who hasn't had Botox injections done before, and I'm just kind of dipping my toes into the water, and I'm trying to find out some more information, maybe even find a local business who does Botox injections, because maybe I didn't get referred over anywhere. I might go to Google, and I might ask Google these questions to find out more information. Hey, what is Botox cosmetic? What can Botox treat? And the reason why this particular practice has their content in the form of Q&As is because they understand that before someone is actually sitting in the chair asking them these questions, they could be asking Google these questions. So if Google notices that you are basically answering that person's question that someone is going to Google for, Google is actually going to help promote your page on Botox, as an example, within localized search results. So do you see the depth here in terms of content, the questions and answers, but also, a really strong video on the procedure? As I go down here a little bit further, I start to get introduced to different before and after photos. So this page here was really well thought out. There was a lot of intention behind this page. And if you're doing these things, you have good content, good images, good videos, so on and so forth, then Google is going to promote your website more within localized search results. So I wanted to make sure that everyone saw that. Another thing that you really want to do here is audit your backlinks. If you don't know what backlinks are, then we can certainly talk more about that. But as an example, again, if I am a dermatologist and I'm starting up a new business in a new area, say a local newspaper or a magazine or a publication, does a write-up about me that says, hey, here's Dr. Rob, he's starting up a new business, here's where he's located. That is what is called a backlinking opportunity, where again, that local newspaper is doing an article write-up about you, and that is an opportunity for you to get your website linked within that article or that publication. When Google notices that connection between your website and that publication, which is really authoritative because a lot of people go to that website, it gives your online presence instant credibility, and it's a great thing for your localized search results as well. So I'd be happy to explain that in a little bit more detail, but that's kind of the gist. The other thing that you really want to do here during phase 3 is optimize your website with conversion elements. And a big part of this is understanding that, outside of having conversion elements on your website, there are things like Google reviews that really do a fantastic job at converting that word of mouth patient into your practice, or that patient who is just finding you for the very first time. So I'm actually going to pass the ball off to Michael to cover this part of the presentation. Because this is a fantastic way of understanding that, this is a good way of getting a higher volume of patients into your practice if you have an active Google review strategy. And I want him to show you how our tool works as well. So Mike, I'm going to pass this ball over to you here.
Awesome, thanks. I will wait for the screen. I will wait for the screen share here. So, guys, first and foremost, I think it's also important to understand that. Think about your practice. I know there's a lot of healthcare verticals that are represented here on the webinar today. But case in point, if your practice first and foremost should be referral driven and word of mouth driven. that always should be really your best lead sources of where you're getting new patients from in today's age. If you're not, then, you know, unfortunately, there's no amount of marketing that can really solve that problem. So it doesn't matter whichever I practice that I've talked to. I mean, those clients will always say to me that, Michael, my word of mouth patients are always my best patients in terms of their quality. So with all of that being said, it's also important to understand that the traditional word of mouth model is now dead. Gone are the days where we are just told to, oh, you need to go to this practice, or, oh, you need to go see this doctor, and then we automatically just go. No, what we do is once we receive that information, albeit if your practice is fee-for-service driven or if you're insurance driven, patients still go online to do their research about those providers that they're about to see. My wife and I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and we're into a local healthcare system here where we live in Pennsylvania. Our OB-GYN was done through insurance. Did I want to make sure that my wife was going to get the best care from our OB-GYN and make sure that she was going to the best doctor in the world, particularly because it was our second child and our first was born during the midst of a pandemic in April of 2020? Absolutely. I wanted to make sure that we're about to go to a practice or to a doctor that we can trust, that we can feel great about. Additively, now that my son is born here, making sure he's getting the best pediatric care. So it's not even just about fee-for-service practices, but it's about the mark that you're making to patients as they're seeking you out online. Because the internet offers too much possibility and too much availability of information. And there's 100% a correlation between how you're nurturing your word-of-mouth pipeline of patients and how that relates to your online review strategy. And I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to any practice in any vertical, and they say to me, Michael, when I am focused on my review strategy, boy, do I feel the impact of those quality patients really coming into the door. Now, there are a lot of review sites which are out there, okay? You have Yelp, Health Grades, Vitals, Facebook reviews, Google. What I do want to let you know is that Google in today's age is the gold standard of reviews. And Robbie, just so I'm making sure, can you see my screen here okay?
I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So guys, here's a direct search of me doing a search for a med spa practice. Here I'm going to do a direct search for my wife's dental practice. They're in Woodland Hills, California. What you're always going to see first and foremost is that Google profile that's going to show up. What you're always going to see first and foremost is that Google profile that's going to be right over here. And the human brain, we are wired to be visual. That's how the best means of us really understanding and educating ourselves on information. So knowing that this is obviously going to be the most visual thing that patients are exposed to for the first time, this is why you really need to set your mark on a great review strategy, specifically with Google, because in addition to it being the first impression that is really going to set the tone, additively to that, Google reviews absolutely placate into your local search visibility within Google's platform. So Robbie was talking earlier about the importance of consistency with your local citation data. Local citations feed hand in hand with your online Google reviews as well too. They frankly just are simpatico and they go together, just like peanut butter and jelly or cereal and milk. When it comes to a fortified and strong digital strategy, the two most important things that you have to focus on first is what you're doing to drive citations, and then secondly, what you're doing to drive Google reviews. Now, with all of that being said here, we can certainly still see that there are some other review sites like Yelp, for example, or like this one right over here as well too, that we're aggregating reviews, but notice that this is the lion's share of where you're seeing most of the attention and the focus. Now, a solid review strategy is the function of four main things coming together. Number one, it is, do you have a high rating? And we actually did a case study of this about going on 2 years ago, and through some proprietary technology, we were able to analyze the web strategies of over 10,000 practices across the United States. And what our data found, especially when it relates to your online reviews, is that if you're at a 4.3 or below, you actually rank within the lower 25th percentile of all practices nationally. So in other words, if your rating is a 4.3, 75% of practices are actually doing it better than you. Now think about it from this perspective as well too, because there's only 5 stars within a Google rating. 4.3 into 5, that's actually 87%. If we're back in college, that's a B+. That's a pretty good score, but keep in mind, we're grading on the curve here. So that's why you have to be better than that 4.3. The best scores, the most trusted review scores are 4.8 to a 4.9, slightly less than perfect because patients do not expect perfection, but we do expect excellence. And that's what that rating score talks to us about. Secondly, you want to have great volume of your reviews. Now, how you generate volume of reviews is also a function of your patient touch points as a practice as a whole. As kind of a rule of thumb, you should be generating a 5% return of reviews as an aggregate of your weekly volume, or say of your monthly volume. So for example, if your practice sees 100 patients per week, you really should be generating 1 new review per week. In other words, I'm sorry, 1 new review per day. In other words, 5 reviews per business week. The third thing is that you also want to actively engage or reply to your reviews. Now, how you reply is very specific. You know, you would never want to reply to a review and say, you know what, Michael, if I had knee surgery done, you know what, Michael, we're really happy that you're feeling so much better from your knee surgery, blah, 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 blah. That obviously becomes a HIPAA violation. What you can do, though, is you can just acknowledge the feedback, say, thank you so much for posting this review. We'll be sure to share this with our team. That's always a very positive thing to do. And the engagement of your reviews is actually something that Google is looking for. The last thing, though, is about consistency. You want to be very, very consistent. And that's probably the 4 things that I talked about. That is the most important thing. As we take a look at this profile here, this is a profile that is exceptional with their Google review strategy. You can see again that they have a great rating, they have solid volume, how they're generating these reviews. And by the way, everybody, this new flag that you see here, this is Google's way of saying, wink, wink, this is the review that actually matters. Because frankly, if a review is aged more than 4 weeks, it's actually considered to be a dead review. So the newness and the consistency of your reviews matter, as well as then replying to your reviews. Now, a very common problem that our practices will tell us, though, is they say, you know what, Mike, Robbie, we have so many happy patients. Well, we even ask them to leave reviews, and they say that they're going to leave reviews, but they ultimately don't do that. And the reason why they don't do that is because it is your job as a practice to make sure that you are making it as easy as possible for a patient to leave you a review. So if you do not have any type of software application into your practice that really helps you to manage your review strategy, you need to get one. This is a tool that MyAdvice has. It's called Review Power. And this is a very affordable tool. We price this at $199 per month. But what Review Power basically does is it puts you into an empowering position of being able to send out a mass text message to all of your patient base all at the same time, therefore saving you money, as well as making it very easy for a patient to simply just click on a link and take them directly to not only just your Google profile, but the place where we need to write a review. And I'm just going to give you a little demonstration on this. Can you email out review requests? You certainly can. But texting is always a much more surefire way of being able to generate reviews online. If you're looking for an 80% higher conversion rate of reviews, you want to text as opposed to email. This system also allows you to put together text surveys if you wanted to do that. In other words, studying your Net Promoter Scores, or put together a sequence of text drip campaigns. But this is where I would say most of our clients would typically use this tool from. So you click on this button here, we go to next. And then from here are these pre-scripted drop-down templates where all you have to do is select from your template and the whole text script is written out here for you. Guys, I don't know about you, but even when I type in text into my iPhone, my fingers are always misspelling things. And so this is very much a godsend for me if I had just a way if I could do this through a web browser here. So it would say, hi, first name, appreciate your leaving a review here for Family Test Practice Online. Just click on the following link to get started. Thank you in advance. Sign this here from Family Test Practice. Now, what you can see is that, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of review sites which are out there. What our data shows is that there are, frankly, two that have the most influence with revenue for a practice, Google and Facebook. Google is really going to have most of its influence with new patient acquisition. In other words, if I'm a new patient coming to you for the first time, boy, do I want to make sure that I'm going to a great practice. And if I can see that a practice is well reviewed, has consistent review volume, good ratings, that's giving me more confidence of going to this practice. Facebook is really going to have more of its hand with patient retention, helping to increase a patient's what we call their lifetime value, having them invest into multiple services into your practice. Now, both are very equally as important in terms of stimulating revenue. Both do it, though, in different ways. Consider the fact that even with acquisition costs are about 5 to 9 times higher than retention costs. That's why Google reviews are frankly so valuable, because the more of them that you're generating, it lowers your cost of acquisition. It helps to buttress and make the marketing dollars that you're spending in other areas, like, for example, SEO or social media or paid ads, work more efficiently. So case in point, this tool basically integrates with both. Now, if you have a very busy practice and you have high volume of patients that you see every day or every week, what you're probably going to find is going to be more beneficial for you is just to upload a list of contacts, which you can export from your EMR. You can export that from your point of sale system. Or what you can simply do is just type in the patient's name, put their cell phone number in here. And here I can obviously send this to as many people as I would like, but clicking on next, then finally making a decision, hey, when do I want to send this out? Do I send this out now, or do I schedule it for a later delivery? Generally speaking, what we've found is that the best hours of requesting reviews is generally around 5 to 6 o'clock at night. So I'm sending myself a quick little text message here, and what I'm going to find, if you see that that number just increased from 176 to 177, by the way, guys, don't text me because I can be a little bit more of a pain to reply to my reviews. But here's what you can see, my text that just came in here. Hi, Michael, it's just my name. And all I very simply have to do now as a patient is click on that link. It will take me to a landing page where this will not have our logo. This is all integrated with your branding. But then these are your integrations with Google and Facebook. So all I need to do is click on that link, and if I'm signed into Google, it literally takes me right here to the position where I would then leave that review. The name of the game is ease, making it easy as possible for your patients to model the behavior that you want them to do, which is to ultimately leave you feedback online. Now, to give you one other success story here on Review Power, I have to talk to you. I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about this story of my client, Valley Colorectal Surgeons. If you think about colorectal surgery, not a lot of pleasant things when you really think about it. People that have had problems downstairs, fissures, hemorrhoids, just to name a few. And one would make an assumption that because it's a very kind of sensitive healthcare topic, that this practice would probably have a very difficult time generating reviews. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, when you go to Valley Colorectal Surgeons, and again, keep in mind, doing a Google search of the name of the practice, this is the first thing that I see, they have a profound review strategy. And again, same thing, when I just segregate this to the newest here, look at all of these new tags right over here. Lot of great volume. Patients are talking about how great they are, even how humorous the doctors might be. Notice the patients are not actually talking about what they've had done, okay? With the somewhat even sensitive nature of this practice, he and his team would go above and beyond to make you feel comfortable. Patients don't necessarily have to out themselves that they've had problems or what those problems might be, but they want to know that you are sending a message of excellence. So this is again why Google reviews are so valuable, because not only does it help to give patients really the incentive or the buying information that they want to see, which is, hey, we're going to practices that are very, very successful. But additively to that, it's really going to help you tremendously with your visibility in local search, especially when that's complemented with citation management. So Rob, I'm going to pass the ball back over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
Okay. Show my screen. All right. Michael, just to make sure you can see my screen.
Yep, I can see your screen just fine.
All right, sounds good. So great stuff there, Mike. You know, what really jumped out to me there was what Michael was really trying to do was reinforce really the number one thing that a patient generally looks at, again, before they even click into your website, is your Google reviews. And the narrative there needs to constantly speak as to why someone should come see you as opposed to someone else. And if you're really focusing on that, it's not you selling your practice. It's not you saying, hey, patient, this is why you should come see me. This is your patients basically saying to other patients, hey, this is why you need to go see Dr. X, right? And that is really so powerful, because that is how we're conditioned. You know, I call this the Amazon effect. Before we go to Amazon and buy something, whether it's a product, whether it's anything, you're always going to look at the reviews. And what gives you more confidence to buy something? When you see a large sample size of reviews, even if that star rating is around, again, 4.6 to 4.7, when you see a large sample size of people actually leaving positive feedback, it doesn't matter what some of those other negative reviews actually are, because the overwhelming majority of the individuals say, hey, this is a good product, or I had a good experience at this business. And that is really how powerful that they are. So Mike and I would be happy to go into more detail about Google reviews, the technology, but yeah, we've had numerous practices do extremely well in terms of taking advantage of our review power software. And as Mike said, it's pretty cost effective, coming in at $199 a month. So we're kind of getting close to the timing that we have here. I wanted to go through the last two phases here with you to make sure that we're wrapping up the presentation. So phase 4 is basically after we kind of reach the top here, right? So basically, again, this is 13 months after the launch or relaunch of a website. And this is what we call maintenance mode. But like I said here, it's not really a time to get complacent as far as your website goes. The actions that you need to take during this phase is still monitor everything. You've heard this a couple times coming from me, keeping track of your data, understanding what is performing well. If your Botox page is performing really well in terms of conversions, replicate those things on the Kybella page. Get more content on Kybella, more questions and answers. Monitor all of those things to make sure that you are spreading your successes evenly across everything that you do. The other thing that you really need to take into consideration here during this phase, and this is something that MyAdvice would actually help you do as well, is really understand what those core updates are that Google really comes out with, obviously more than a couple of times a year, but really the important ones that we need to keep in mind. As I said previously, back in 2015, Google actually rolled out a core algorithm update called Mobile Get-In. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that, but basically Google started to penalize websites that were not mobile friendly. So these are all things that a really qualified group who has been in the space for quite some time, such as MyAdvice, would be able to help guide you on and really make sure that you're well positioned. You want to watch out for major updates in terms of design best practices. One thing that we're seeing a lot, especially within more boutique-y, smaller medical spas, this is an example of one of my solo injectors that I work with. So she runs a med spa in Miami. What I love about this website is her live Instagram feed. And basically what this is that anytime that she is publishing something to her Instagram in terms of a post, it is automatically getting fed into the design infrastructure here on the website. So I want you to think about this almost like a living, breathing part of this website that is always being added to anytime that she decides to basically add something, a post into her Instagram. So that's kind of cool as well. And again, something like this 2 years ago, it was non-existent. It did not exist. So the pitfalls that you really want to avoid here during phase 4, you want to make sure that a decline is not coming, basically. So understanding like when is the proper time again to consider updating my website. And with MyAdvice here, we're actually updating our clients' websites automatically once every 2 years. Again, keeping in mind that, hey, your website is really similar to this cell phone here. There is a reason why you get a new cell phone once every couple of years. So you really want to make sure that you are on an active schedule to automatically update your website once every couple of years. And obviously that kind of ties into not putting it off. So phase 5 here is, again, this is called the descent. And the idea within phase 5 is that you want to avoid this phase completely by knowing, again, when to update your website. And as I said, that's really at the 2-year mark. So the actions that you need to take here during phase 5 is that you really want to kind of see this time as reflection, understand what made your online presence be successful, things that you could improve upon as well heading into the following year. So understand those things and create a plan around basically an improvement strategy. Don't delay. You know, once your website starts to really decline in terms of efficacy, in terms of traffic, it's only going to get worse. So you really want to make sure, again, that you're on an active schedule to automatically update your website once every couple of years. And I find this last point here really important. Remember that your website is an investment, okay? A lot of practices that we speak to, sometimes they think about their website as a cost. This is a marketing tool. And when it's done the right way, when you're making the proper investments, when you have the right strategy in place as far as your website goes, it is an investment to help make you money at the end of the day, period. The pitfall that you want to avoid here during phase 5 is indecision. So you don't want to kind of vacillate, hey, is it right? Is it time to update my website? Can I still get away with this website for another year? No, once it's reached 2 years, it starts to become dusty and stale, and you want to make sure that it's updated. So that's everything. I appreciate everyone joining up with Michael and I today. What we invite everyone to do here is to schedule up a little bit more of a one-on-one digital strategy session with us. Our information is right here, email address and phone number, and we would love to hear from you. We would love to, basically go through a little bit more of a online strategy session with you, kind of identify where there might be some holes within your online presence, and really create a plan around fixing those situations so that you can also, again, remain more profitable as we head into 2023 this year and make it the best year yet. So I appreciate everyone joining up with us today. Michael, did you have any closing words as well?
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. No, everybody, thank you so much. Just to give a bit of a recap on MyAdvice, we have really been at this now for over 23 years. Rob and I have combined over 20 years of consulting experience in this space. If your practice is just in a position where you're not really seeing the returns from your strategy like you want to be seeing, if the communication that you have with your agency is poor, if you just feel like you're not getting the guidance, a lot of our practices just don't think about the business side of things. They think about just really taking care of patients. Rob and I would love to be able to connect with you one-on-one and really talk about how we can help you to be better positioned as we enter into this next year. So I appreciate your time and hopefully look forward to connecting with everybody one-on-one.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. We'll talk soon.